Well, Fox News is trying out a new slogan. It is no longer most watched, most trusted, which replaced fair and balanced. It is now incendiary and hypocritical? No, it is America is watching. That's right. And if that sounds like Big Brother is watching, it's absolutely not, because that would mean that the media and the government are one and the same, which is basically totalitarianism. And I think that's what we're dealing with right here. This new slogan comes off the heels of a bunch of advertisers jumping ship on the network after comments from some of its hosts, like Janine, hijabs are un-American Piro, and Laura, detention centers are like summer camps Ingram, and of course Tucker, Iraqis are monkeys Carlson. Advertisers that have so far pulled their ads from Fox include pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca, Takeda pharmaceutical company, Career Builder, TD Ameritrade, Just for Men, Outback Steakhouse, and Peloton. Pressure is also mounting on Carlson's remaining advertisers, including Mitsubishi and Allstate Insurance, to follow 33 others that have cut ties with the host since December, when he told viewers that immigrants make the country poorer and dirtier. So, will the rebrand save Fox? Panel.
Okay, so I'm amused that he even lost an advertiser called Just for Men.
Yeah.
You would have thought that one would have hung in there.
I'm surprised you even had an advertiser called Just for Men.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised the show's not called Just for Men.
Exactly, the new slogan is Just for Men. Fox News should just try out Just for Men, just for white, straight men.
Yeah.
And Dave Rubin.
And Dave Rubin. So no, I like the truth in advertising though in the new slogan, okay? Because one of my main problems with Fox News was that they mislabeled themselves. You know, so right now they're doing a lot of victimhood, like, oh my God, poor us, we only make billions of dollars and we're so oppressed and stuff like that. When will we ever catch a break when we make trillions of dollars? So, and this hate's selling so well, but poor us. Anyway, but I think that you get to say all that stuff, and so you certainly get to say it as an American citizen, and I think that you get to say most of it. We'll talk about where the line is in a second on television, but when you say you're fair and balanced, I mean, who are you kidding? I mean, that was such a joke, and that was done for propaganda reasons.
Right.
And Roger Ailes knew that, and he talked about it, and he wrote memos to Richard Nixon back in the day when he was a political operative before he ran Fox News, saying we got to take control over TV, and we got to put our Republican ideas and inject it into TV, so it seems like news. That's why they called it fair and balanced. So they got rid of that, which I actually gave them a lot of credit for, because that was one of my top issues with Fox News. The thing that they didn't get rid of is news in their name. And that's not exactly what they're doing. But now at least there's a little bit of honesty, like America's watching.
Okay. But my God, what is America watching? I hope they're not watching Fox News, but it's one of those things where you just wonder, what is Fox News gonna try next? And the thing is, like, the Disney deal comes down with them acquiring Fox. I think that March 20 is the date. And so the news portion will stay with Fox. And they're gonna have to differentiate themselves, but also they're gonna have to be able to sustain stock value and continue to generate income, especially when they separate from all these assets. And so I appreciate this new effort, but I really don't know how far it's gonna go.
I like the reference to them as assets.
They're assets.
Yeah.
No, but America's watching is super like low-key racist, let's be honest. I mean, I see it as that, because it's like, America is watching, whereas like Pakistan is watching or Somalia is watching MSNBC. You know what I mean? It's like someone, like other countries, which somehow, we don't have immigrants from those countries here. They're not Americans. America is watching this. And I think it's low-key saying, white America is watching Fox, whereas if you identify with any other ethnic group or country, or you're from anywhere else, but you've moved here and you're a citizen, no. You're watching something else for the brown people.
I have to confess, Francesca, that I had not thought of that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, and because I was thinking, like, I guess they're bragging about that they're highly rated, which is true, right? But Adrienne's right. I mean, all of the cable news operations and all of cable are not watched by that many people. At their height, Fox News gets about 3 million people an hour, which is a big number, but it's less than 1% of the country. So it's not like all of America is watching. At best, 1% of America is watching. But as long as any Americans are watching, anybody can claim America is watching. America is watching CNN or Lifetime or whatever, right? So it's kind of a weird thing. Now it kind of makes sense. Like the real America is watching us.
That's right. Yep.
Right? And so, okay, but that actually is gonna go towards my standards for what should get you kicked off of TV or not in a second. But first, I wanna show you a video. Our own Emma Vigeland went down to cover a protest in front of Fox News that happened earlier today. So they were protesting Jeanine Pirro's comments and Tucker Carlson's comments. So let's watch to see what they were upset about.
We have no expectation of Fox to do anything. We don't expect them to do the right thing. But what we do expect is that advertisers will respond to the bottom line, which is money. And what we're saying is that Fox is bad for business. And in particular, women are actually huge economic drivers. Women are the targets of a lot of advertisements, actually. And frankly, if you want women to buy your products, you can't advertise on Fox News. And that's the message we're sending.
You can watch the whole video, by the way, at youtube.com/rebelhq or facebook.com/rebelhq, and we'll have the link down below if you're watching this later. Now, guys, let's talk about what's out of bounds and not. I think I could even get most of the MAGA guys to agree with some of the things that are out of bounds, although you never know. I think, but certainly a huge percentage of the country would agree that if you do something illegal, that's a problem. And some things that you say are also illegal, which leads us to number 2, which is direct incitement of violence. If Tucker Carlson or anyone were to come out and go, hey, you know what? I don't like Senator XYZ. Why doesn't somebody go hurt him, right? That's obviously illegal. You can't do that. You can't do direct incitement of violence. I would hope that you wouldn't do indirect incitement of violence. And the more indirect you get, the closer to the line you get, the more direct you get, the more it is obvious that you shouldn't be on TV. The network shouldn't support that, advertisers shouldn't support that. But I'm talking about things that are clearly out of bounds, and we'll get to the line in a sec. So then I think it's also super obvious that some hate words are out of bounds. Now that's where the right wing's gonna get triggered and go, no, I love my hate words, and you guys are doing oppression, and you're Big Brother, and all that stuff. No, I wanna be clear, okay? So can we agree that if Tucker Carlson came out, or any of them, or anybody came out and started chanting, the Jews will not replace us, that would be unacceptable? I hope we can agree to that. You know, if he said blood and soil, which is a Nazi chant, would that do it? Or do you think, no, that's good, yeah, we should have Fox News on, right? Have him on television. So my point is, there is language extreme enough for people to say, no, we're not gonna put that on TV. And this is not the government. The parent company has all the right in the world to choose who they have on TV, and we can't do that. So now, I think the interesting part comes in, and we might all disagree here, and everybody in the audience can disagree on where they would draw the line. I would say, in order for us to have enough leeway to have interesting conversations, that we should not have advertiser boycotts of things that are indirectly offensive. So for example, America is watching. I see what you're saying about the racial undertone there, but would I say that's good enough for an advertiser boycott? No, I wouldn't, right? And so, but then it gets really hard. So Tucker Carlson said immigrants are dirty. That's racial. I think it's abhorrent. I think it's things that have been used to keep people down for a long time. It triggers conservatives because they are more easily triggered by the fear and disgust, those two emotions. And the dirty is a word that has been used in the past, etc. But I think it falls below the line. And so I think that's where the interesting conversation is.
There's 2 questions. One for me is like, okay, business. Is it good for business, bad for business? A protester out there saying it's bad for business, and they're encouraging companies to pull their ads. And I think that's a legitimate, nonviolent, tactic to boycott and also to protest Fox News, which consistently flirts with that line. Pirro saying that Ilhan Omar wearing hijab suggests that she's un-American, that she has loyalty somewhere else, right? Essentially calling her a terrorist, really, or saying that if you're Muslim, you can't be loyal to the United States. But she's also word for word said, get a gun. Get a gun, told her entire audience, get a gun, protect yourself, because Sharia law is coming for you. Jeanine Pirro has been on the Sharia law train for a very, very long time. I would say that is out of bounds. If I were a business owner, like a Botox company that pulled ads from her, which is like when Jeanine Pirro was losing the soccer mom companies like for Botox, you know there's a problem. But that's one, right? That's private. Then to me, it's like, well, where does the FCC come down? Because when I saw Jeanine Pirro say, get a gun, because Sharia law is coming for you, well, that is an incitement to violence, I think, and also factually incorrect. Sharia law is not coming for you. Where? Like, so, and people like in Portland, Oregon, right? There have been crazies and people who've shot and what was it? The incident on the train, right? People who believe in Sharia law, who wield guns, who openly carry. So like, where does the FCC step in? Where does the government step in? Where can we say like, this is the line and you can't cross it?
What they do essentially is they leave it to the citizens as their own to actually sue. To say, hey, you participated in inciting violence, and I believe Trump is actually facing a lawsuit in the same regard for things he said at his rallies where people actually got hurt. By essentially saying you're playing a role in inciting violence. You can't just scream fire in a crowded room and when people get trampled say, uh-huh.
Right.
You know, it's really an unfortunate thing because you do have the government performing some regulation factors, but they do leave a significant amount of that up to individual citizens to fight for their rights. The problem is we as minorities and women, we tend to be oppressed the most and have to fight the most, and we have the least resources to do that. So essentially, we're left hung out to dry.
As outrageous as some of the things that they say, and I picked the immigrant example because I'm an immigrant, so, you know, if anyone should be offended, it's me, and I am offended by it, but I don't think that means that he should be kicked off the air. I also don't think that advertisers should boycott him for that. And so why do I say that? Because then we'll have fairly insipid speech, because then it gets too narrowed down to what advertisers will accept. Yes. Because advertisers don't want you to do interesting shows. They want you to do boring shows.
But where's the accountability, Cenk? Like,
right.
What do you know, this is, again, like, well, I make fun of Fox, but they are the most watched cable news network. And yeah, that 1% of people who watch Fox, like we have to remember that they're outside of actually the core demographic of like 25 to 54-year-olds. They're old, like they are only in their lazy boy chair watching the news.
Because those are the people who still have cable.
And those are the people who
part
still
of me is
have
like, you
cable.
flexing on the fact that, oh, we're the #1 8-track, you know,
sure.
Artist. It's like, yeah, okay, so who's really doing that?
But I do think that like, you know, and so if Just for Men wants to advertise to 25 to 54-year-olds, which they do, and they're like, this is not on our brand, you know, or if they want to, you know, advertise to the LGBTQ community, and you're like, you are hurting our brand when you, you know, speak against this community. Doesn't look good on us. So like, my question is just, who's going to hold them accountable? Is it we're just going to wait on ratings and everyone to evolve, or can we say
have to
like
do it at the stores? And who we're going to continue to buy and whose pockets we're going to continue to fill, because that's how we end up kind of creating this cycle, and it ends up hurting Fox or taking away sponsors. And I'm a huge fan of the boycott. Like capitalism, let it do its job. If people don't like the way you
believe
do
in the
your
free
business,
market,
that's right. Let's get this done.
Yeah. No, look. I disagree a little bit, and I'm a little biased because I'm a talk show host. Okay, let's just keep it real. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there. So fairly obvious from the surroundings, but
you don't incite violence.
No, of course not. But that's why I've been citing violence as above the line, like or below the line.
But Fox News flirts so perfectly with that line all the time.
I know, but Francesca, you have a Second Amendment right to a gun, and you know nobody's for gun control more than I am. Like they do flirt with it, but saying go get a gun, and then a half a sentence later saying, hey, Sharia law is coming for you is absurd. I know it's going towards that conclusion, but it is not saying go shoot Muslims. Sure. And that's what Fox flirts with. And the thing is, if people want to sell, look, a significant percentage of this country is right wing. And I'll go further, a significant percentage of this country is racist.
Yeah, it is.
And so if you want to sell to that demographic, have at it, Hoss. So I mean, I think that's up to them. And so anyway, last thing is, I think one thing that is also clearly okay is there's this policing of civility by the mainstream media. And so Tucker in his rant, which was 98% wrong, the only part that I agreed with is, I don't care what Brian Stelter or anyone else thinks is civil or not civil. It's usually a way of protecting the status quo, to say, hey, everybody simmer down. okay? And it is also often used against the left. Oh, Black Lives Matter, you seem a little too upset.
Sure.
Let's all be civil. And the most important thing is to be civil to the elite, right? So no, I do not agree to that. So, and oftentimes people conflate things like, oh, Alex Jones is a madman because he screams. No, Alex Jones is a madman because he believes in crazy things and definitely directly incites violence, where he says God hates them and somebody should do something about it and we're gonna crush them, et cetera, et cetera. So the incitement of violence is the problem, not being quote unquote uncivil. So otherwise, we'll have no interesting programming at all. All we'll have is vanilla stuff that the establishment agreed to. 2 easy ways to follow Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.